Alright, today we're going to be doing extensor hallucis longus. This muscle originates on the anterior surface of the shaft of the fibula, and its insertion is going to be the distal phalanx of the first toe. This muscle extends the first toe and also assists in dorsiflexion. So to test this, you're going to have the patient extend the first toe. You're going to stabilize at the foot. You have them hold this for 5 seconds while you apply a flexion to the first toe. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and relax. Alright, today we're doing extensor digitorum longus. This muscle originates on the lateral condyle of the tibia and the proximal 2/3 shafts of the fibula. The insertion point is going to be the middle and distal phalanges, toes 2 through 5. This muscle extends the toes 2 through 5 and also assists in dorsiflexion of the foot. So to test this, you're going to have the patient extend the phalanges 2 through 5, and you're going to stabilize here, and then you're going to push down, have them hold it for 5 seconds. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and relax. All right, today we're doing tibialis anterior. This muscle originates on the lateral condyle of the tibia and the lateral shaft of the tibia. The insertion for this muscle is the base of the first metatarsal and the first cuneiform on the medial aspect. This muscle dorsiflexes and inverts the foot. So to test this, we're going to ask the patient to dorsiflex and invert the foot. You're going to stabilize at the back of the tibia, and you push your hand on the forefoot, and you're going to push them, ask them to hold 5 seconds while you push into eversion and plantarflexion. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and relax.
We will now be talking about the peroneus brevis and the peroneus longus. The peroneus longus, the origin point will be the head and the upper 2/3 of the lateral fibular shaft, as well as the origin, or the insertion point, will be on the base of the first metatarsal and the first cuneiform. To palpate it, we'll ask the patient to evert and plantar flex his foot, and we feel the peroneus longus up to here. Relax. The peroneus brevis, the origin point will be the lower 2/3 of the fibula, as well as the insertion point will be on the base of the 5th metatarsal. The action of both of these muscles being in the lateral compartment is going to be eversion as well as plantar flexion. The manual muscle test is the same for both muscles due to the inability to isolate each of them. To do the manual muscle test, the patient will lay on the uninjured leg on the lateral side, while the tester will come underneath to support the leg. The patient will evert and plantar flex his foot, while the tester will hold here and here, and ask the patient to hold for 5 seconds while trying to push into dorsiflexion and invert. Ready, set, go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, relax. We'll now be talking about the gastrocnemius. The gastrocnemius' origin is on the lateral and medial epicondyle of the femur. The insertion point will be on the calcaneus via the Achilles tendon. The gastrocnemius is located right up in here, and the action of the gastrocnemius is to plantar flex the foot. To test the gastrocnemius, we'll ask the patient to place his foot into plantar flexion by hitting the gas pedal. Now hold it, and we'll ask the patient to hold for 5 seconds. Ready, go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, relax.
All right, now we're going to be doing the flexor digitorum longus. The origin is the posterior tibia and fibula right here, The insertion is the navicular and the adjacent tarsals, and the action is that it flexes toes 2 through 5. And so to test that muscle, I'm gonna have my patient flex his toes for me, and he's gonna hold that for 5 seconds while I try to bring him back to neutral. All right, ready?
Yep.
Go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, relax. Okay, now we're going to be doing the tibialis posterior. The origin is again the posterior tibia and fibula. The insertion is the navicular and the adjacent tarsals, and the action is plantar flexion and inversion. And to test that, I'm going to have him turn his foot down and in, and then he's going to resist, or I'm going to resist while he holds it there for 5 seconds. All right, ready?
Mhm.
All right, go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right, relax. All right, and for my last muscle, I have the flexor hallucis longus, and the origin is again the posterior fibula. The insertion is the distal phalanx of the first toe, and the action is that it flexes the first toe and assists in plantar flexion and inversion. And to test that, I'm going to have him flex his first toe for me, and I'm going to resist while he holds for 5 seconds. All right, ready?
Yep.
All right, go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Relax.